The MS-06f ZakuII F-Type Solari RFV. What a name. This is the ZakuII F from Gundam Requiem for a Vengeance that I believe is, at least according to the box here, exclusive to Netflix. And this is going to be the next kit that we are building. But we're going to take a look inside the box in just a moment. But there's something different that we're going to be doing this time around. And that is because I'm going to set this up here a little bit. This is the last guy that we built. This was the O. You can find the video to that on the channel if you want to see the review for this guy's build. And over on the VOD's channel is, of course, the full build video from beginning to end of this guy being put together. We learned a lot of lessons with this guy, but one of the things that we learned is that some things are easier at different stages of creation, assembly. And one of the things that I ran into, I had to keep on taking this guy like back apart to make him easier to work with, was when I was doing finishing on him. And I don't know if this is actually a good thing to try, but we are going to do all of the finishing before we do assembly. I'm sure there's probably plenty of feelings about whether that's a good idea or not, but I don't know what they are. And this guy, one of the reasons that I picked him up is, one, he was actually available for purchase on Amazon for a recent acceptable price. He has a lot of extra detail in his panels, so he's going to probably look really, really good with some panel lining done. But as I learned with this guy, I feel like some of that might be easier if we do it while they're still on the runner. So we're going to try that with this one and see if that's actually the case. My concern with that is, depending on how much and in what ways you do the finishing, it will make some of the assembly more complicated. I need to figure out a solution for this reflection. Problem for later. Because this guy is clear coated. He's got a layer of effectively like varnish on him. That is what makes him kind of shiny, and it also allows some of the panel lining to not wipe off, because while some of this is very, very permanent, some of it was literally able to be wiped off with my finger. And that is not ideal for, you know, actually like having a finished product that you can handle the way that I'm handling this guy and just able to move him around and pose him and stuff like that. And I want to do that with this one, but I'm curious if it will be easier to do finishing on him before he is assembled. The only thing that I have concerns about that would be, the main concern that I would have would be using these files, maybe not necessarily these metal ones, but I do have in their containers over here these glass files that I used for the majority of the construction of the O here. And these were really, really good for filing down the nubs, nibs, extra little bits from the runners. And I don't know if that will work as well if he's already finished. Well, I mean, it'll file just fine, but I'm worried that filing down nibs and stuff will potentially kind of like ruin some of the work that you did for the finishing touches, or what normally are the finishing touches, such as panel lining and stuff like that. And so I won't know until I try, and I don't have a huge investment in this, so we will just have to discover that for ourselves. Well, let's get this guy out of the way and let's take a proper look at what's in the box, and hopefully it's not too crinkly and noisy for us. So inside, one of the things I immediately noticed when I was putting this guy together compared to this guy, at least when I was just kind of peeking in the box, it doesn't look like there's polycaps with this guy, which I think is what those are called, like the actual joint pieces. I didn't see any in here. So what is this? Please note that the shapes of the C1 parts are partially different from the assembly drawing to improve ease of assembly. Okay. So what do we got? We got 3 bags. I do see. Are those all stickers? Is this one big stick? Well, we'll start with this bag. Sure. I'll grab these other bags in a moment, but I'm going to have to take a look and see what these stickers look like. I hope that this crinkling isn't too much. The microphone should be directed towards me, so it shouldn't be terrible, but you know, what do I know? So let's get that out of the way, and let's take a first look at these stickers here. So give me just a second. Wrong direction. I know how cameras work. I don't, actually. I literally am always making this up as I go. Those... Okay, so this is one big sticker. This is one big sticker, but there's 4 stickers on here, 4 stickers on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. This guy has a lot of stickers. Are these stickers or are these transfers? Stickers. Okay, it says stickers. Oh my god, that better not... These are all individual. I don't know if I can get the lighting right to where you'll be able to see this properly. Let me see if it can focus on what I want it to focus on if I raise it up a little bit here. You can do it, buddy. I believe in you. You can barely see it. You see those little white squares right here? Those appear to all be individual stickers. There's 2 little stickers here. There's what appears to be 2 long, thin stickers, 2 little stickers here. 4. Oh my God. I hate this already. I don't mind stickers that much. These are just so small and so numerous that I'm not super jazzed about what that is ultimately going to mean. How does this look in terms of framing? Not too shabby. I should probably zoom out a little bit. And there we go. This is a good little pointer stick. So what do we got here? This is B1. I don't know how many runners ultimately we were going to have, 6 or 7 maybe. So this is a lot of his armor pieces. If I can look at that horrible glare. So good. So yeah, this is definitely going to be these bold pieces. And we can see what I'm talking about here on how many panel lines and how much extra detail is on some of these parts here. And that's kind of partially why I want to do a lot of the panel lining and stuff first. I don't know if it is actually going to be easier when I'm holding the entire runner trying to do this, but that's why we're going to discover this together. So that's a lot of the big major armor pieces. This looks like a lot of the tubing and a little bit of some of the sub armor. Looking at this guy again, it looks like it's going to be some of like his skirt pieces, maybe his knees, or just some of the underlying pieces in here. But this should be not. Here's the other thing. It's going to be hard to tell doing this what is going to be mostly covered and what isn't, because these pieces, for example, I'm not sure if they will be very visible on the final product here to the point where finishing them will be worth the time and effort and energy. I guess we'll see. I'm sure that if it was like with what kits is it that has the internal skeleton? Are those all real grades or full mechanics? Or I'm still a noob at this, okay? All right, so into bag number 2. So noisy. We have just his feet. No, it is his feet and his chest piece. So the only gray pieces are these on his feet as well as on his chest. And I see where I can barely make out here where some of those bigger stickers go. They are supposed to create like this grating effect on his feet. And do they also have the... They do. I was like, do they also have the weird claws? That's what these black marks are, is these weird claws on his feet. I don't know how much I care for that. I feel like this is a point where just if you were a little bit more bold and had them ready, which I do not, if you could just do some pigments on the feet, and it would probably look better and work better than wrapping these in stickers. But yeah, you know, what do we know? This looks like more accent pieces. Yeah, this is definitely going to be like some of those knee covers here. I think these are relatively what we're looking at here. This is the big, well, no, it's not the outer part of the shield. It's the inner part of the shield that we have right here. As well as like, this looks like part of his front skirt here is going to be right here. So a lot of this will thankfully be visible. We have parts of his autocannon. I don't know if they're actually called autocannons, but that's what my brain says they're called. I think actually his whole autocannon is on this runner because this looks like the top drum magazine. Then we got one bag left. Hold on for just a moment, please. Crickle, crackle, crackle, crickle, crackle, crinkle, crackle. All right, and so we have the very few red accents that exist. So this is the outer part of the shield, probably I'm guessing the front and the back of the shoulder. And then what else on you is, oh no, this is just the 3 parts of the shoulder. So it is, this is the front pad, the actual part that goes around, because this is that black spike right here, and then the back part. And then wherever, I'm betting this is actually just also part of the shield. This piece up here is also probably just part of the shield. As is my guess anyway. So very small little red molding. And then we have some more skeleton pieces. And then some more armor pieces. So we actually he's only 3 colors at base. You have 3 sets of this dark navy color, 2 sets of the brown, and oh wait, no, 4 I guess is the number that they give you, because you get a few pieces in red and a few pieces in this gray here. So ultimately not very many. I'm also really curious how this assembly is going to go, because there are no polycaps, and that was one of the things when I was building the that I had never, like, this guy didn't have any. This was the very first one that I made, this really simple, like, entry grade RX-78 that I made at Barnes & Noble. Is like, it was like a free kit essentially, and he was like 10 pieces total. Okay, that's a little bit of exaggeration, but it's only a little bit. And then this guy was the first proper kit that I made, and he was significantly more substantial in terms of number of parts and the complexity of the assembly. Now, mind you, he's still just a high grade. I do have a master grade sitting next to me that I'm intimidated by. But one of the things that I thought was cool about that was, do I have them sitting here easily able to be grabbed? I do. Was these polycaps. They are like a soft rubber plastic that bends. And they're what function as like kind of some of the joints and stuff, where you can actually see one pretty easily right here in his shoulder. This gray socket is where his shoulder sits in, and it's what turns and gives the movement and stuff, right? Like, that's how his joints work. I don't know how this guy's joints are going to work, because he doesn't have any soft spots for the kit to sit into. So definitely going to be curious to see how that goes. But ultimately, we'll see. Got a lot of new experimentation to go on here, because we are going to do panel lining and finishing, and I'll probably even try spraying them with the varnish. Like, I'm going to panel line it. I'm probably going to he has a heat axe. That's cool. He's got his heat isn't in his picture. Is it in the back here? It is. Okay. I'm going to paint his heat axe, because I do actually have some paint now. So we're going to go ahead and paint that heat axe and give it a little bit more detail. Mono eye? Are you supposed to paint the mono eye? Because there's no pink here. Is there a mono eye? Is there a sticker for it? Yes, there's a sticker for the mono eye. Okay. So, yeah, we'll definitely do a little bit of painting. We'll do a lot of panel lining. We'll do some finishing. We'll do some marking. We'll do some markers and some pen work. And then I think, just to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and, while it's on the runner, I will spray it with finishing varnish. And then once it's all panel lined and detailed and finished, then we'll start cutting them off the runner and see what that ultimately ends up looking like. And see if that's better or worse. Ooh. That guy, his only stickers are these red lines on his feet. And I just sprayed the lacquer over them. This guy has much more stickers. I'll figure out how I'm going to do that when we get into it. Anyway, so that is what we're going to be working with. I will give a very short montage after the little intro cut here, and then I will be back with the final piece. So, without further ado, let's begin. so here we are at probably what's going to be the midpoint of the build. So I have panel lined everything. I've put some stickers on. We've done some markers. We've done some painting, which I didn't do on the O. And I'll show you what we're at right now and some of the spots that I have some concerns about, because right now it seems like trying to do the finishing touches before you put it together is a bit of a double-edged sword. And that is primarily because while the runners are really nice as something to hold on to, and let me get something that's a little bit easier to see the difference in detail on. While the runners are like really nice as in terms of like a handle to be able to use for the purpose of like doing the panel lining without having to hold on to the piece itself, especially when you're working with smaller pieces like the hands and stuff here, there is a benefit there. Let me get you a little bit closer so that you can see this. There's a benefit in that. But the issue is that there are times when I don't know what to call the pegs that hold the piece onto the runner are called, like the mounts. There are times when those get in the way of what you're trying to do in terms of, let me see if I can find a decent example immediately. I don't remember which pieces it was that I was really heavily noticing that problem on, that there was just sometimes that the runner was in the way. But there are times like with these really small pieces, especially like with these thin guys like this one, that it was really nice because it was like I have all of this to hold on to and allows you to focus on it. Now, the panel lining was pretty easy to do, but one of the things that when you're panel lining, you're going to have a little bit of overflow normally wherever you've placed the panel liner. And when you do that, the easiest way to get it off is to take something like this, just literally a eraser, and just erase it, and then it'll come off because it's just a really light abrasive, right? But that meant that getting into some of these areas was even harder because of, well, this is much fatter than a itty bitty little brush tip. Now, the other thing that I wasn't anticipating is that, much like how sometimes the mount gets in the way of the panel lining, the bigger thing that it got in the way of was the stickers. So I actually had to take off the feet because this detail on the outside here, if I can get this to focus properly on what I would like it to focus on here, right here, buddy. So these details here are all actually stickers. And here, let me get this even better for you if I go like this. Got it. Okay. And so this like, you know, vent dirt is all stickers on the outside here. And the mounts were like right here on the bottom. And I was like, there's no way to put these stickers on in a way that won't look like trash while it's still on the runner. And so I had to take these off in order to apply all of the stickers around. And then that meant that when I went to go varnish everything, that we had to figure out how that was going to work too. And that was also kind of an interesting process because the problem that I had with the O is I had to take him like somewhat back apart to be able to then varnish him so that then I could, you know, put him back together and he'd be done. I varnished everything while it was on the runners, and you can maybe see on this piece just a little bit where it's like it didn't apply super evenly. I wish it would have, and I tried as much as I could to be very consistent with the spray, but I probably wasn't. It's only my like second time ever doing this anyway, so that was definitely a part of it. And I'm about to see how much of a double-edged sword applying the varnish is going to be, because what is going to happen now is that, for example, like I think this is his head right here. What's going to happen is the side of his head where it's held onto the runner, when I cut this off, it's not going to be varnished in that one little spot. I'm not sure how noticeable that'll be overall when it comes to the final build, but you know, one way to find out is to actually do the entire build. So we'll see what that looks like ultimately. One other thing that I am pretty happy about is the heat axe. So I just zoomed this out, and instead of zooming it back in, I will just switch over to this one. And so I did do some painting work on the heat axe because otherwise it would have just been the same kind of navy gray that the rest of it is. And so I painted that up before we varnished it. So that paint is nice and locked under the varnish now. So we'll see how that looks when we're all said and done. But all of the detail work, all of the panel lining work and everything is all done on all of the parts, I hope. I think anyway. One of the other weird parts about this is that I couldn't fully tell what was going to be an outwardly visible part. Some are really obvious, like the shield and the shoulder pad pieces and stuff. But especially on these darker pieces, like, well, that's probably part of his leg armor or something, right? But what are these? You know? Where does this go? These weird little triangle pieces. Who knows where those are? So I just panel lined everything, which meant that I probably needed to do more than I necessarily needed to. And we'll see what that actually looks like at the end result. But that was the first half. Time to get started on the second half. So here we are. Now, I don't know how much of this I put in the middle of the video. If you notice, his arm's off, and that's problematic. So the problem here is that this twisted off. This is the actual nub that his arm is supposed to rotate on his shoulder, and this broke off of here, and it broke off so insanely fast and so insanely easily. I am going to try to repair it. I just didn't have the tools to do so by the time of this video. I'm going to try to do the brass bone repair. So I'm going to flatten this out, and I'm going to bore this out with a hand drill, and then put a piece of brass metal in there, and then plastic cement it all together. That's going to be my intention, so that he can actually probably still not be super stable and strong, but he'll at least be able to hold his stuff. Now, that said, let's actually talk about this kit itself, okay? So, real quick, we're going to talk about, like, 3 different categories. We'll start with the visual design of this thing. This guy is awesome, okay? He looks super cool. The camera is not doing it justice, not in the way that I would like. This kit visually is awesome, okay? Because a lot, like, I haven't done any type of, I can't remember what it is called when you do the customizations to cut your own grooves in. I've not done any of that. This is just the kit out of the box with some pretty standard finalizations done in terms of, like, panel lining all of the grooves, doing some, like, getting some of the stickers on, doing the varnish at the end of it all, and, you know, making sure, trying to do as good of a quality as we can of, you know, fine cuts of taking it off the runners and filing them down and all of that. There's a full video of the entire build if you want to see it. It's over on the VODs channel. We didn't stream the build, but that's just where those videos are going to live because they're really long and they don't have any audio or anything on them. So if you want to listen to an audiobook while watching somebody put together a Gunpla, you have the option to do so. Now, so visually, this guy is awesome. This guy looks like a kit that somebody did customization work on, but he comes like this out of the box because I've seen some amazing before and afters of people taking literally like this RX-78 guy and carving into his legs all of the detail lines and everything that this guy has, right? All of these cool things on his thighs and on his calves and stuff, carving that type of detail into one of these super basic flat guys to make this one look like this one. A lot of work. It's really impressive, and this guy just comes that way out of the box, which makes him, when you're done, if you put that effort in, really cool, because all of this black detail work it does not come with. Now, that said, that is kind of where the praise here ends, is he looks cool. Now, the build process itself, he wasn't nearly as fun to build as the O was, whose legs you can see over here. He was a fine build, but the problem actually is partially with this and partially with the whole thing. So I was very surprised that he does not have any form of polycaps. It is hard plastic on hard plastic throughout. And that means that all of his points of articulation are also just hard plastic on hard plastic, which I think is part of the reason why this snapped in the way that it did. And that sucks because it also makes him feel very fragile. So I'm going to open up his skirt here, and we're going to upskirt this Zaku for a moment. And I'm going to try to get this visual if I can here. Now, it's not going to want to focus super well. I hope I have this set to autofocus. I don't know if I do or not, but regardless. So this joint right here, this part where you can see that it is stabbed in, that's supposed to turn, okay? And it doesn't. And this part inside his hip here, see if I can get the light to help me out a little bit. His part inside his hip here also turns, okay? So he's got 2 points of articulation on in his pelvis area here. But the problem is that the one that's inside that this part is hooked onto turns way easier than this spot right here. So what happens is even if you try really hard to get that to move, it doesn't want to. And instead, the piece inside here is what's wanting to turn. And you can maybe even see, if I can get even more light, so that, you know, there's, just use my phone and just really get as much light in there as possible. There we go. You can barely make out that there's already starting to be a stress line on that plastic plate in there from trying to articulate this leg. And that's not what we want, right? Because that means that he's already compromised. Obviously, he's already compromised. He's missing an arm. But he's also compromised in the matter of that this leg is now a weakness point if you wanted to do things with him. And he does have, like, really good movement in his knee, right? Like, look at this dude. He can kick his own ass. You could do a whole lot with him. Like, this means that... I'm gonna try my damnedest to be careful. It means you should be able, if it all wants to cooperate, which, of course, it does not, because, like I said, this build is questionable at best. He should be able, if you could get it to do what it should, he should be able to take a knee. And... I don't feel like it's actually possible because of how rigid some of this plastic on plastic is. I don't want to force it, but that's like feeling like the only way. Oh, there you go. Oh, God, my arm. It fell. Oh, jeez. Oh, man, my arm. And that sucks because it's such a cool model. I have not watched Requiem for Vengeance, but this is a really cool Zaku design. I like the shield and the different colors that are in play here because of the way you got this kind of like navy gray alongside the red and the orange. It's a really good design. You piece of shit. Anyway, but the build is so rickety. Now, I also want to point out that there are some stickers missing. This kit has a ton of stickers. The O had 4. This thing has 29. And it's actually more like 30 or 40 because there's multiple of these 28s and 29s that are supposed to go on multiple spots. But there's a huge issue with the stickers as well. So these ones right here are actually supposed to go on these black skirt areas. I didn't put them on there because unlike this one and unlike this one, the problem is that the stickers were not transparent enough. So when you put them on this navy gray, it was really, really easy to see that it was a sticker. Where this one, both of these look great. Like, they are not obviously stickers to my eye. Those just look like really well done, well presented details. But what ended up happening was when you put those stickers on these parts, it made the part where the sticker was a lighter gray and not where it's like, you know, trying to look like battle damage. It just looks like a dirty sticker. And I don't think they're supposed to be dirty, maybe a little bit, but it just stood out super, super bad, especially in the parts because they wanted some like here and here and here, especially when this sticker here covers up that whole front panel. This covers up the whole panel. So if it is making a miscoloration, it's difficult to notice. But if you have this navy gray with a sticker on it right next to navy gray without it, they look like completely different colors and not in a good way. This leg is questionable. So, yeah, it's really unfortunate because he's such a cool model. He's like, you can switch out the axe in the back here if you want to have his gun on his back or if you want to have his hip on the back. They actually pop in and out really easily. The other problem is because it's plastic on plastic and because of the way that this joint is, he just wants to stand up straight. If you try to spread his legs at all, I'm sorry, I'm just absolutely abusing you, Zaku. If you try to spread his legs at all, they just snap back together because they're not actually designed to do that because of the way that plastic is forced under there. And it makes me nervous to do much of the articulation on this guy. One thing I will note, as I talked about at the beginning of the video, that we are going to try something different with this one, which is we are going to do all the finishing on him before we assembled him. And we did do that. I did all the panel lining while I was on the runner, and I varnished it while I was on the runner. And I think that might be a little bit about why this happened, because the varnish is, it is matter. It takes up space, and there's not a whole lot of space. So I think it took up just enough space that this can't move very freely, which caused it to just tension fracture as soon as I tried to move it. And that might also be why like these don't move as well and stuff like that. He's difficult to pose, and I think it could be because of that extra small little layer of the top coat that is all over him. That could be the case. I don't know for sure because some of this moves just fine. It's not even an issue. And there is another little ball in there, and these move and these can pop out so that you have, you know, differences in how you want to position and pose and present them. This guy pops out and you can put it on his other leg. You can swap out his hands so that he can actually be holding the gun instead of the sword. And the hands that they provide you are actually so that he can properly hold on to both the grip and the angle, and you can put it on either direction. Very cool, very creative, some of the stuff that they've done with this guy. But unfortunately, I feel like the only thing I could reasonably do with him is just like gingerly stand him there and be like, look, he would be really cool if he was slightly different. But ultimately, I'm just disappointed. One thing I will say, though, is that with these stickers, at least ignoring the ones that I didn't use on the navy blue, the rest of the stickers, all of this around his feet, this is all sticker work here, right? And it looks really good. And it looks even better with the top coat on because it makes it not look like a sticker because it has the same sheen and shine as everything else that's on him. Really cool effect that was really hard to notice with the O because only those little red lines on his feet are the only stickers. So it gives me an appreciation for stickers, but also a apprehension because of how bad the stickers can look if they are not used where they should be. I also got to experiment with some painting. I haven't actually painted anything small in forever. Like, I've painted houses and rooms and stuff, right? But the heat axe is just this navy gray, and I was like, well, that needs to be a hot color. So I whipped out the paints. I didn't have an orange, so we mixed some red and some yellow together, did some highlighting work, and got this heat axe. I'm pretty pleased with the way that it looks. But unfortunately, it didn't serve him well enough, and it now rests on the ground behind him. If, before I get this video edited, I was able to attempt the repair, I will put some photos on the screen, as well as some potential poses that I will try to get him into gently. Much like the O, I don't intend to keep this guy. Oh my god. Much like the O, I don't intend to keep this Zaku. I intend to sell them where I can. I have not figured that out yet, which is why the O is still hanging out back there, because I want to pass these along. I have captured them for myself in the form of pictures and in the form of this video. I don't have a room for a whole lot of these, so I intend to sell them either locally at my local game store or at on Facebook Marketplace or through eBay or through trade forums. Like, I know that the Gunpla Reddit has a monthly buy-sell trade type post, and so I'll be looking into those. If you're interested in either of them, whether it's the O or the ZakuII F-type Solari, let me know. We can figure something out one way or the other. Ultimately, though, this guy, if he was posed well and just sitting on the shelf, it'd be like, man, that's like a 10 out of 10 Gunpla. The build itself, in terms of like actually what it felt like to build, I found the O was actually a lot more fun. I'd put this guy at like a visual 9.5 because some things just, if you don't do the stickers right or if you don't do the panel lining, it's not a 10 because of the amount of work that you're going to have to do out of the box to get him to look like this. So like 9.5 on visuals. Build is like a 6. And the actual quality of the kit, because of how fragile he seems, like he just kind of looks fragile and has clearly broken. Could be my fault because of the panel lining, but when I asked on the subreddit of how to fix this, I had like a dozen people say, yeah, I have the same kit and it broke in the same place. And I was like, oh, maybe it's a manufacturing defect. Don't know. Doesn't matter at this point. But the point of it is that the quality of the kit affects the posability, so it's hard to give the posability a score. But because of how jank the quality is, it's like a 3 or a 4 in that particular category. And it's sad because like I gave the O like a heavy 7, I think is where we put it at, because I was like, yeah, seems fine. He's pretty limited in like his posability because of how bulky he is. This guy, I think, actually wouldn't have a ton of a posability. I mean, I guess like you can, you know, I guess he can kind of, what the fuck is happening with your leg, dude? Okay, yeah, so like posability is like a 5 and the quality of the build itself is like a 4 or a 3. He looks great though. Overall score is like a 5 out of 10. Maybe. I don't know. I do like him, though. He is cool. I still think he is really, really cool looking, especially not having to do the customization out of the box. So, yeah, there he is. ZakuII F-Type Solari. Fragile Boy, move out of the way. And let's bring the other camera in here so that I can show you what we're going to build next. So we've built 2 Xeon ships at this point. It's time for us to actually build something of the more heroic nature. So the next kit is going to be the Gundam Aerial Rebuild. And the very first Gundam anime that I watched was technically Mobile Suit G Gundam, but I was like 10 and it was on Toonami, and I barely remember anything about it besides the weird bodysuits that they get in when they're in the Gundams. The first Gundam that we watched when I was getting back into Gundam recently that has led to this video and everything that you see here was Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury. And so it is fitting that the show and the series that brought me here is going to be the next one on it. So Aerial Rebuild will be the next. If you have a particular kit that you would like me to build, please let me know. If I can find it, I'll be happy to do so. I'll also leave my P.O. box down below. You do not have to send me anything. That is by no means a requirement, but if you would be so excited to see me do one of these videos for a kit that you really love, by all means, I won't tell you no. I just can't promise how quickly it'll happen because these things take time. So, with all that said, thank you so much, everybody. If you enjoyed the video, please leave it a like. If you want to catch future videos, please subscribe to the channel. I hope to stream some of these builds at some point in the future, but life is crazy, which is why these are just being recorded in my downtime when I'm able to do so. I appreciate all of you very, very much. If you do watch one of the other videos on the channel, or if I do ever see you in the live stream, thank you and enjoy.